Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot Canadian Edition. It is October 11th, and for all my fellow Canadians, I hope you are having a happy Thanksgiving, whether you're celebrating today, yesterday, the day before. I just hope you've had a good Thanksgiving. There's a lot to be thankful for in our world, and sometimes it's just really important to remember that when things get bumpy and rough. Okay, so I thought it was time to just take a good look at what Canada's going through right now for a couple of reasons. One, in four biggest provinces, so Quebec, Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. COVID cases are rather dramatically on the rise. The second wave, which we were anticipating and expecting, has arrived. As of right now, we are sitting at approximately just under 180,000 cases, coast to coast to coast, and under 10,000 lost souls. So while our numbers are not horrible, and while a lot of the economy has been stabilized because of all of the sort of financial relief and aid that the Liberal government has been very good about getting out to the people, that has sort of to some degree helped stabilize the country. But there's a lot going on, and so I thought it would be a good time to take a look and see how my country is doing. So here we go. Come on down. I have a question. By the way, don't lose hope. The U.S. reading is going to be released shortly after this one, and that reading includes Trump this coming week, the pendulum, cards, and the pet parade. So if you're looking forward to the pet parade, it will be released very shortly. You'll see it in a couple of hours if you're watching this one shortly after it was released. Okay, so let's take a look at Canada. Come on down. Canada COVID economy. Canada COVID economy. Canada COVID economy. Okay, well, that one wanted to sit. So we have the Three of Cups. So that talks about, happy people, celebrations, that kind of thing. So let's see what else the cards are telling us. Okay. Now, there is no question that Canadians have taken a real financial hit. Some of them are in a really difficult position. Jobs have been lost, that sense of security has been lost. Now, the government handed out a fair bit of money, and they actually are going to continue to do so. I don't see them actually pulling any of the supports that they have set up. If they pull something, it'll be replaced with something else, something maybe stronger, cleaner, whatever. But the government is going to continue to do what they can to try to keep people afloat. That's just how it's going to be. Okay, you can love the Liberal government, you can despise Trudeau, you can love it, whatever. As of right now, they are going to continue doing everything they can to keep Canada floating and to keep families as secure as they can be. This is hard. Every single country in the world is really kind of in the same place. Those countries that handled the pandemic responsibly and reasonably and did everything that they could to sort of safeguard and secure their citizens are, going to fare better than those that didn't. I mean, it's as simple as that, because what you've done is, to the best of your ability, you've kept the economy going, and you've really kept people from like losing their roof and starving. Okay, so the government is going to continue to do what the government is going to do, but surprisingly, you're going to see some interesting growth. Whether that is job numbers or whether that, I don't know. I don't know if we're planning, if there's going to be a drop in the interest rate, but with the Empress sitting here, it's definitely talking about the fact that potential growth is there, it is available. It may be slow, but it is not, it hasn't been destroyed. The growth is going to continue. Right now, there's a lot of sort of up and down going on in the federal government. So the conservatives were really, really going after Trump um, over that We Foundation, and they were pushing a non-confidence vote. The NDP, Jasmeet Singh, stepped in, and he has sided with the Liberals. And so what that did was that sort of made it so that the non-confidence vote wouldn't work. Okay, and that's just part of what goes on when you have a minority government. You're kind of always at risk for somebody coming along and saying, yeah, we just don't think you're good. We don't have any confidence in you. Out you go. Typically, the non-confidence vote is more of a political move as opposed to a real attempt to significantly bring down the government. In my memory, I've only remember that happening once. And frankly, it happened because somebody got their vote mixed up. One of the people who was voting got their, like one of the members of parliament got their vote mixed up, and instead of voting yes, they voted no, or instead of voting no, they voted yes. So typically, the whole non-confidence vote thing is just a political maneuver. There is still some sort of stuff going on. There's kind of like preparations being put into place, kind of in case there's going to be a snap election, but I don't see that yet. We'll pull more cards and see what else it has to say. This is the thing. Overall, the Liberal government is still polling well. Okay, they're slightly ahead of the Conservatives. And the NDP are strong, but they are trailing behind the Conservatives. With, I think it's the age group 18 to 34 and 55 and older, the Liberals are stronger than any other parties. That middle ground, the 35 to 54, those people only by 1 point are supporting the Conservatives above the Liberals. So you can see that sort of across the board right now, the Liberals are kind of holding their own as best they can. Okay, and even in provinces, I'm thinking specifically of Ontario, where they have a Conservative premier in Ford. Ford, for the most part, really has almost like taken a very liberal attitude, and he's not trying to, he's doing everything that he can to keep his economy floating and to keep people safe. There have been a couple of areas, I think, where they have pulled back, and they are, implementing again stronger rules and regulations in terms of social distancing and stuff. They're pulling it back because over the summer, even though the country was not wide open by a long shot, we really did experience kind of a relatively, calm period of time. It wasn't that COVID went away, but it had stabilized, I guess is the word I'm wanting to use. And now that fall has rolled around, of course, and everybody went back to school, whether that was in person, because a lot of the elementary schools have gone back to in-person learning. The high schools, et cetera, not so much. And I think for the most part, most universities are either completely online or they're an amalgamation of in-person and online. So it's not unexpected that COVID cases are kicking up, but for the most part, the message is getting out there that this is what we need to do, this is where we are, and this is how we're going to protect ourselves. And for the most part, the message is being well received. I think, honestly, Alberta is having a bit more of a pushback because Kenny is our premier. He really is a Trump wannabe, but he's not doing so well. He is losing his standing in the polls. His popularity has dropped significantly because he is trying to push the economy and sort of that whole getting back to normal deal. But that's not so easy to do when the province itself is picking up COVID cases day by day by day in significant numbers. So overall, it looks as if the country is, I guess, prepared to weather the storm going forward. Now, there's going to be a lot of anxiety. There's going to be a lot of worry. You're going to know people who are in a really tough place. And, money is going to continue to be an issue and a concern for the vast majority of households. Because even if you held on to your job, or even if after March, April, you sort of were able to return to your job, whether that return was full time, so you may be having a job, but maybe not making as much money. But frankly, there have been there have been a reduction of some expenses because people are not traveling as much. They're not, um, they're not eating out as much. There's a lot of things where people have pulled back, but there's also, frankly, expenses that go along with COVID. I would absolutely love to know how much money has been spent in Canada on hand sanitizer, Lysol type wipes and face masks. So there's it kind of goes both ways, but money is continuing to be a concern. And as is, honestly, people trying to come into Canada from the United States. There have been something like, I think it was 3,400 Americans that were rejected who were trying to get into Canada over the summer to go shopping. Are you kidding me? So there's a concern about sort of the whole cross-border thing going on. There is a concern about families with their money and their financial stability. I'm not minimizing. There is a lot of worry and stress and anxiety in our country. And, in terms of mental health, it's in a more precarious position than it has been, I think, for a very, very long time in terms of Canadians. But, like every other country, we're doing what we can do to kind of get by and get through. You can anticipate, the Conservatives are going to continue to try to really pass harsh judgment on the Liberals, federally for sure, and to some degree, whether your provincial government is Liberal or not. Judgments are being passed by Canadians and the voters in terms of what they think and how they feel about this response and how the country is doing. But again, this is indicating that, the country it's not in anywhere near great shape financially. I'm not saying that, but it looks like there's going to be a little bit more stability in terms of jobs being created and that kind of thing. And there's also going to continue to be that federal help and to some degree provincial help to help people stay afloat and, kind of do the best they can given the really difficult situation and circumstances the country, like the world, is facing. The federal government is in sort of choppy water. I mean, they're ahead of the game, but they're not in great shape. But it looks as if, despite sort of the turbulence, the federal government is going to hold its own. And really, that's a really good thing, because the last thing you want right now is an upheaval in government. Because if a conservative government under O'Toole were going to get in right now, what you would end up with is people who are suffering now suffering even worse, and some people who are kind of getting by and it's okay fall into the suffering category, because the conservative government would be pushing to sort of cut spending and try to rebalance the budget. And realistically, this is not the time to cut spending or rebalance the budget. This is a time for Canadians to get through it. And the Liberal government under Justin Trudeau, again, whether you love him or hate him, that's what they have been able to do. Not only that, but Trudeau is a very good messenger in terms of staying the course, right? He's a really good messenger, helping people to stay on track, keep their social distancing up, wear their face masks. Don't be traveling where you don't need to be traveling. Don't even be shopping when and you don't need to be shopping. Pull back again as fall comes. Let's get back to kind of that once a week or twice a week sort of run to the stores, the grocery store, the pharmacy, whatever it is. For whatever reason, he's just a very good messenger of that. When he speaks, he's sort of well received. And so it's kind of a crazy thing, right? He sort of has the ability to inspire hope and still be firm. And that message, by and large, is getting out. And so that's kind of a really good thing. It feels as if the Trudeau government is going to be able to stabilize. It doesn't feel like they're going to make great progress in terms of support or popularity, but it does feel like they're going to be able to stabilize things. And frankly, it feels like provincial governments are also going to be on board with that, because as the numbers tick up, it's really hard to say, yeah, this is the time to pull back on funding and financing, and this is the time to, cut healthcare benefits or, whatever it is. So it feels like, once again, just like in February, March, April, the provinces and the federal government are sort of pretty much going to be on the same page. They're all looking in the same direction. They're all kind of working on the same team, even if politically they're not on the same team. The bipartisanship is there, make no mistake, but it is not severe. You're going to, again, as we go through the fall and into winter, see that kind of everybody pulling together and doing what they can going forward. Now, as far as COVID goes, it's still out there. For the next couple of months, the numbers are going to continue to increase. That's just the reality. And so there is going to be, again, that restriction in terms of, being out and about and socializing and social distancing. And that's just simply how it has to be. I read something this morning I think it was on Facebook, from somebody in Alberta, and they were commenting on the fact that this Thanksgiving, a lot of people have been told to really keep your celebrations small, keep them tight. And somebody did this long sort of rant about, well, this is just ridiculous. You can't just ignore your neighbors. You can't just isolate from everybody. Who's going to watch your house when you go on vacation? Who's going to be there to make sure? And it was like this crazy, crazy rant. And I'm reading it and I'm thinking, so what? You can only count on your neighbors if you get together for holiday drinks? What is that? So there are people out there who are just determined that they just want everything to go back to the way it was before the beginning of 2020. It's not going to happen. And people who are of that mindset, frankly, are just making themselves nuts, because you cannot just ignore what is going on or minimize it because you don't like it. Now, overall, the message is getting out. And frankly, people who are really pushing back, um, within their own little groups, I guess they're being well received. But by and large, overall, people are like, could you give your head a shake, right? This is not the time to open things up because you're not able to live your life the way you were able to in, November and December last year. We're in a whole different galaxy this year, folks. And for the most part, Canada's going to come through it. It's going to survive it. Um, and there really sort of is a little bit of a sense of stability that's going to come along into 2021 for a couple of reasons. One, even though this hit is going to be bad, and it's going to take a lot of evaluation, and it's not something you can take your eyes off, right? There's just going to be a lot of um, everybody evaluating, everybody, tightening their belts a little bit, everybody doing what they can to keep floating. It does look, though, after the US election, that to some degree things are just going to feel a little bit more stabilized. And I will actually go so far as to say that some of those premiers who really thought that, being Trump-like was a good thing, they're going to discover that it may work in the short term for a limited number of people, but overall, it is not an attitude that is particularly well received here in Canada. But it looks like the rules and regulations, by and large, are going to be followed. It looks like the money is going to continue to flow to help create that sense of stability and that sense of the situation is not great, but we can probably hang in there a couple of more months. Canada is doing quite well in terms of vaccines, in terms of, looking at treatments and that kind of thing. It feels very much like the worst of it is going to be over as we go into 2020. And I'm not saying that COVID's going to disappear. I'm just saying that it feels like they're going to have the scientists, the medical professions, et cetera, are going to have a much better handle on going into 2020, 2021, what looks more viable and likely. And again, it feels very much like governments who try to sing a different tune are not going to be well received. People are not going to like what is going on if they really try to push at clawing back the very things that are keeping Canadians stable right now. I think by and large, Spirit would like Canadians to know this. These are still difficult times. There's still a lot we don't know. Nobody really can accurately project, how bad this wave is going to be. Some say not so bad, others say a lot worse than the one, last year, well, earlier this year, like February, March time. But with the sun showing up and the Nine of Cups showing up, it really is an indicator that, we're going to get through it. We might be a little battered and bruised, but frankly, so are all of our brothers and sisters globally. We're all struggling. We're all in it together. And we're all hoping for the best possible results. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I hope it was a little bit reassuring. I want to thank all of my new subscribers. Over the weekend, I surpassed 8,000 subscribers on this channel, the Soulprint Intuitive Tarot channel. And my numbers, in fact, are increasing on Soulprint Insights also. So I'm very grateful for all of my subscribers, new and established. And I thank you very, very much for the support. For people who send in donations, thank you so much. It's just humbling. for me. It really is. And for those of you looking for private readings, in the box below, there is an email address. If you just reach out to me at that email address, I will send the information forward that you need to know in terms of how to go about arranging for a reading. And I am currently booking sort of the end of October into the beginning of November, so the wait time is not too long. Until next time. Oh, and um, the US video is going to be released in a couple of hours. That includes the pet parade, cards, pendulum, and how Trump's going to do week starting October 10th. So if you're interested in that, it'll be out in a few hours. Don't panic. Until I see you again, take care, be well. Bye-bye for now.